Today is Wednesday, March 11th, 2026, and the regular season has come to its end. But a new season begins. This is Talkin Husky Hoops.
It is a UConn coronation. The Huskies make history. Back-to-back national champions.
I'm Mike Gizzi.
And I'm WIll Jeong.
And welcome back to the 19th episode of Talkin Husky Hoops, where we talk all things UConn men's basketball, from game previews and game breakdowns to everything involving Hurley and the men's team. As always, Will, how are we feeling?
You know, not amazing. It's been an interesting week for the Huskies, to say the least, with a lot of national attention. But the season is far from over. March is here, and it's not even right around the corner. It's here. And, sometimes it's just best to be a goldfish. So I guess we do have to talk about it, however, so I guess let's get right into it. This past Saturday, the UConn Huskies fell in the regular season finale to the Marquette Golden Eagles by a score of 68-62 on the road, relinquishing their hold on a share of the Big East regular season title and ending conference play with a record of 17-3.
The Golden Eagles had 4 players in double figures, led by Nigel James Jr., who once again had 19 points on 7 for 19 shooting, followed by Chase Ross with 14 points on 4 for 7 shooting. Nothing particularly impressive from the Golden Eagles, more so on the Huskies' breakdown on everything on the offensive end of the floor.
Yeah, pretty much this was just an accumulation of all of the Huskies' troubles this season in terms of at least offensive production. They shot an embarrassing 3 for 24 from beyond the arc on total 36% from the field, despite going 17 for 18 from the stripe. Shooting was just simply abysmal.
I mean, definitely, if we want to talk about individual performances that were not up to par, to say the least, Solo Ball and Alex Caravan both struggled, scoring 8 and 2 points respectively, and shooting a combined 2 for 16 from the field. Alex Caravan's only 2 points actually came from the free throw line, having him actually not make a field goal, so Solo Ball's the only player out of the two who ended up making a shot from the floor.
Yes. Additionally, Braylon Mullins followed in suit, shooting 1 for 10 from 3, scoring 9 in total. Interestingly, the Huskies did actually out-rebound Marquette in this game, 40-25, and they were pretty comparable in fouls. The Huskies only committed 20 to Marquette's 17, but overall, just the difference in that offensive production really just dictated the game.
Although we're kind of on a bit of a down right now, there were a few good aspects of this game, starting off with Silas Demery Jr. leading the Huskies with his 17 points, 8 assists, and 4 rebounds. Also followed closely by Terrace Reed Jr., who notched his 4th double-double in his last 5 outings for the Huskies. I mean, definitely 2 outstanding performances, 2 players who have been great for the team all around throughout the season.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, this game just kind of highlighted the struggles for the Huskies all season. It might kind of just turn out that's just, how the team is, and these problems are kind of just part of the team's identity.
Yes.
They have yet to prove that they can play consistently for 40 minutes, and, it's been kind of frustrating, especially for Coach Hurley.
I mean, definitely. The Huskies did shoot well from the free throw line, though.
Yes.
Which is something that has been a problem this season. I mean, I think this game they shot 17 for 18 from the free throw line, 94%. I mean, for something that we always state is a problem on this show, it wasn't a problem today. It was one of actually the very few problems. Although the Huskies did turn over the ball 16 times in this game. Nobody specifically turned the ball over more than the other. It was more of just a team problem throughout the lineup, if we're being honest.
Yeah, absolutely. And then looking at the fouls one last time, again, it wasn't there was no big discrepancy, although there were a couple, I guess, arguable calls. Most notably, I guess, was Silas Demery's crucial miss towards the end of the game, where there was maybe an argument for a foul or so, but I guess Hurley got caught up in it a little bit.
Yeah, you kind of do have to let the players play down the stretch. You can't let a foul call decide the outcome of a game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dan Hurley did not like the call, though, as he did end up, getting a double tech, which leads to an ejection for bumping the ref, which kind of confused me, though, because after the game they announced he received a $25,000 fine, but not a 1-game suspension.
Yeah.
They said he didn't receive the 1-game suspension because he didn't bump the ref, but he also bumped the ref, which got him ejected. It doesn't make sense to us, but it's good that we don't have to lose our the Huskies leader for their first game of the Big East tournament, which we'll talk about later on.
Yeah.
Best if the Huskies really just kind of put this behind them, or not even put this behind them. They need to remember this because they might have to face Marquette in round 2 of the Big East tournament. So
Yes.
definitely they should use this as fuel and not forget about this loss, and definitely, they should have been working very hard after that game as they prepared for the Big East tournament.
For sure.
So, yeah. Now to move on to some news. Let's move past the Marquette loss, move on to some brighter topics.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awards galore.
Yes.
This was a big week for awards, not just Huskies, but throughout the entirety of college basketball. But
Yes.
every starter for the Huskies got an award. We'll start off Braylon Mullins, named to the Big East All-Freshman team. Great season from him all around. I mean, we can't begin to talk about how important he's been for this team.
Yeah, absolutely.
Silas Demery Jr., Big East All-Defensive Team and All Big East First Team.
Yes.
Alex Caravan, All Big East First Team. Terrace Reed, All Big East First Team. And Solo Ball, All Big East Second Team. But a Shooting Guard of the Year top 5 finalist.
Yeah, that was awesome to see. All around, the starters for this team are, after all, the identity that, comes out on national polls. When you see UConn, you see those 5 faces up there. So,
Yeah.
really awesome to see the recognition that these guys get.
Definitely. All right, let's move on to the AP poll.
For sure. So, this week the Huskies did fall following the loss to Marquette. That was their only game they played this week. They fall to number 6 in the country. Florida moving up 1 to 4th, Houston moving up 2 to 5th. So that was kind of the movement. In terms of the poll, again, once the bracket starts to come out now, it's going to be...
AP poll kind of loses a lot of its value starting next week. I mean,
Yep.
by next Tuesday, by next Monday when the AP poll usually comes out, all the seedings will be out, all the tournament. I mean, so basically there's no point of AP polls anymore. So this is the last one that really counted for the Huskies.
Yes.
Again, we always go over UConn's opponents this season. As we stated, Florida jumped to number 4.
Yes. St. John's did have a pretty big jump, actually.
They
jumped up
did.
5 spots to 13.
Yes. Michigan State in the preseason, who they played, stays at 8.
Yes.
Kansas at 14 stayed stagnant. And I think, actually,
Yes.
that was it.
Yeah, Villanova got a couple votes once
Yeah.
again, so they're probably hovering around like the 30 range or
Yeah,
so.
BYU just outside,
Yes.
and I think that's about it for UConn opponents when it came to their ranks.
Yeah, but ultimately now it all just comes down to those seeds.
Those seeds,
Yes.
those tournaments, everything that is going to lead up to the selection show this upcoming Sunday.
Yes.
But before we get to talking about March Madness and the NCAA tournament, let's break down the Big East tournament, which is a task that UConn has ahead of them before they can secure their seeding.
Yes, so with that, the Big East tournament is here, starting today, Wednesday, March 11th, until March 14th, all in Madison Square Garden, the world's most famous arena, as they say. Always a super competitive tournament. In terms of UConn's path, it's going to be 3 games in 3 days, assuming, the team keeps on winning out. UConn will play the winner of Marquette and Xavier in the second round of the Big East tournament, 7 o'clock this Thursday. In terms of how UConn performed against these 2 teams, of course, we saw, Saturday's matchup against Marquette, 1-1 on the season, and UConn was able to sweep Xavier during the regular season. So ultimately, it's either going to be another chance against Xavier or maybe a chance at redemption.
Definitely. Looking more forward, it's a little bit more up in the air. If the Huskies obviously win tomorrow, what will their path kind of look like? They either see the winner of Villanova or either Georgetown or DePaul. UConn is 6-0 versus all 3 of those opponents combined, 3 sweeps. I mean, they played Villanova the most recent. That was a very good game for the Huskies,
Yes.
actually. One of their last very good games besides St. John's that they've played. And that game would happen on Friday at 8 p.m. And then lastly, if UConn was to make it to the Big East Championship, that would be on Saturday at 6:30. And that would help them clinch an auto bid into the NCAA tournament, even though they are already basically an auto bid into the NCAA tournament. But that would completely lock them in and would most likely not allow another Big East team in besides the ones who already are high enough ranked.
But yes, onto that elusive NCAA tournament. It's kind of easy to overlook some of the conference tournaments that, are not as consequential as the NCAA tournament, but it's always looming in the background, and it is here. So, following the loss to Marquette, UConn did fall in projections to a 2 seed, but that is kind of the general consensus. There is still an argument they could maybe get a 1 seed back if some other teams stumble, but I think 2 is probably the comfortable projection now.
Yeah, for them to get a 1 seed, I'd basically say that all the teams ahead of them have to lose in their conference tournament, which is very unlikely to happen. You have teams that barely have lost this year: Duke, Michigan, Arizona, Florida, and Houston.
Yes.
So those teams, realistically, I think one has to actually fall because 2 of those teams are in the same conference.
Yes.
But they're basically locked in as a 2 seed at this point. Unless they lose, they can actually maybe even go down. Yes, Midwest region is their projection, meaning that they'd be located in Chicago for the Sweet 16 Elite 8, but currently most places have them projected to land in Philadelphia for the round of 64 and 32. Let's move on to some, projections from different sources.
Yeah.
Joe Lunardi from ESPN in his bracketology has the Huskies projected as a 2 in the Midwest against 15th-seeded Queens. CBS has UConn also projected 2 in the Midwest, yet they have them against 15th-ranked Tennessee State.
Yes.
Lastly, though, a bit different here, Mike DeCourcy from Fox Sports has UConn in the East.
Yes.
That's definitely helpful for UConn as a 2 seed against Queens as well.
Yes. So, again, being in the East would actually be pretty beneficial for the Huskies. So, if they are able to get that far in the tournament, they would have more favorable environments. I think Washington, D.C. would be the final for the Sweet 16 Elite 8, at least that second weekend, which would be super beneficial, at least compared to Chicago or even like Houston, where another region could be, to at least...
God forbid San Jose.
Yes. To have the fan base be able to, just be a car's drive away would be super helpful.
Definitely. Now let's move on to some other Big East teams. We briefly mentioned them before. There's really 2 who kind of secured a spot already from the Big East into the NCAA tournament. That's St. John's, who's currently around a 5-6 seed, can move around based on their outcomes from the Big East tournament, and Villanova, who's 7-8 seed, probably could fall to as low as a 9 or 10 if they lose early in the Big East tournament. Seton Hall is just on the outside of the bubble. They have been in the first 4 out, last 4 in, and the next 4 out right now currently after maybe a not so great last few performances.
Yeah.
They're kind of looming. They're not in that last 4 or next 4 out currently. So they kind of need to win the Big East tournament to get into the NCAA tournament. But lastly, before we move on, let's talk about what we think the Huskies are going to do in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, for sure.
Our floors and our ceilings. I'll start us off. I think the floor for UConn's the round of 32, depending on who they're matched up with. I think if they have to see an SEC team, like a Kentucky or a Georgia, or maybe even an ACC team, I've seen them possibly have to, go against like a Clemson.
Yeah.
That could be a problem. It's a bigger opponent. Although UConn has strived in their non-conference schedule against those bigger opponents, it could end up being a problem with the Huskies' recent struggles, especially if you're coming off a Big East tournament where you might be playing some lower end or lower echelon teams when it comes to records and ability. So I think that could be a problem with them if they're not, ready for that high quality opponent. I think I stated that as a problem last week in our last episode of what are my worries for this team are playing a bigger school with a different brand of basketball. Because I'll say those SEC teams, their records are not accurate with how good they are.
Yes.
Like a team like, for instance, Kentucky, who's like a 19-12 team. Like they've beaten ranked teams. They've beaten a ranked Tennessee. They beat St. John's. They've beat Vanderbilt. And they've only lost to the number 1 seed Florida by less than 10 points both times. They were down 25 against Florida and only lost by 7. And I think they were within 5 in that game at one point. Like those teams scare me.
Yes.
That's why I think it could be 32. But I have their ceiling as the Final Four. I'm not 100% sure after the last outing and after, a bit of a struggle the last few weeks, and they've thrived. I don't know if they're really able to make it to a national championship, but there's always a chance.
Yes. In terms of floor, I think round of 32 should be a safe bet. I would like to say Sweet 16, but again, like you said, it's very easy for some of these like 7 to 10 seeds to kind of be underseeded, and at least how the bracket is looking, like you said, Kentucky, St. Mary's, Georgia, Villanova are currently the 7 line according to Joe Lenardi. Those teams are pretty dangerous, and if it comes down to March, anything is possible. So I think round of 32 is probably the safer option. I'd like to say Sweet 16, but again, round 32 is a safe floor. Then in terms of ceiling, I would have to probably agree with you. Final Four is probably there. I'm not quite sure if the Huskies are consistent enough to beat 2 to 3 higher seeds consecutively. I think they could easily knock off 1 or 2 and make some noise, whether that's Duke or Michigan. There's always a chance, of course. You can never count out Dan Hurley.
And it is March.
Yes, but in terms of stringing a couple of those together, it's going to take the team to lock in. But always possible, of course.
Definitely. Lastly, to close this out, usually we do a mood of the week or a moment of the week. Let's do something a bit different.
Sure.
Our Cinderella watch.
Okay.
Who we think is going to have a Cinderella run when it comes tournament time.
I like
in
it.
just a week and a half. I'll start us off just like I did before. I think UC Irvine will have a Cinderella run. Projected a 14 seed. They're not in the tournament yet. They have to win the Big West to get in. They're currently the 1 seed in the Big West tournament. They have them favored to get into the tournament as that Big West bid. I think they can take down Gonzaga, who they are projected to play right now. Gonzaga's not the best team, and they lost a few weeks ago to who? San Francisco or?
They
lost to Portland.
Yes,
they lost to Portland a few weeks ago, and they definitely. That upset there just makes it, to me, seem like they can definitely get upset again if they're underestimating a team like UC Irvine. And I definitely also believe they can beat a team further on in the round of 32, like BYU or Miami, Ohio, who in Joe Lenardi in his bracket right now, I think that's who they are projected to see if they make it thus far.
Yeah, for sure. Irvine is always going to be tough. For sure, the Big West, it's a sneaky good division, so always a chance there. In terms of my Cinderella watch, I have the High Point Panthers, winners of the Big South. Currently, they're projected to be a 12 seed. In terms of picking brackets, you should always pick a 5 to 12 seed game every now and then. It's good for the health of the bracket.
Yes.
High Point is a super potent offense. They are 5th in the country in points per game, scoring 90 a game. I think they could easily catch a slower power team off guard, just catch them on their heels, and be able to get one of those Cinderellas that teams are always apt to having a sport like this. Yes.
Yeah. And with that, thank you for watching this episode of Talkin Husky Hoops. Spring break is next week, so we'll be back in 2 weeks to break down the Big East tournament in the midst of March Madness, and we'll break down the first 2 rounds, round of 64, round of 32, where UConn is projected to be one of the 16 teams remaining as they head into the Sweet 16, as the college basketball season sadly nears its close.
Yes.
But with that, I'm Mike Gizzi.
And I'm WIll Jeong, UCTV Sports.
Go Huskies.